And welcome back to another episode of CaSaundra Jolliff Live. I am so stoked about these guests that I have on here today. They are not a stranger to the CaSaundra Jolliff Show or CaSaundra Jolliff Live because you know how to change the name, but they are experts in the space of mental wealth, mental health, and trauma. And today we are going to talk very candidly about relationships. Particularly, the question I had asked was, why do couples compete? I personally, I don't get it. And super personally, I don't. I've never been in a relationship that I was being competed with. And if I was, he must have been so smooth because I never caught it. So we've got the experts today that are going to talk very candidly with you guys about why people compete and how their life experiences show up in the relationship, whether that's the marriage, whether that's the courtship, whether that's the dating, whether that's the sex piece. I mean, it shows up all over. And so we're going to have adult conversations here today, people. So if you got some children around, you may want to have them go in another room because we're going to talk about what really happens in real relationships. So without further ado, we're going to talk about why, in this episode, why do couples compete? And I've got one of my I got my favorite peeps on today. I have Kristy Snelson, and Kristy's going to introduce herself or reintroduce herself to some and introduce herself to others. And she's just going to share with you a little bit about who she is and what she's doing and how she's changing the world. And I'm going to tell you how to get in contact with her after these messages. Okay, Kristy, do tell.
Hello, of course. Yes, I am Kristy Snelson. I am so happy to be back. I love the show because I can always be myself. Some shows I got to be like this, but no, I could just be myself. I just go my little educational background history. I am, of course, a registered nurse, and then I'm also a mental health therapist. So I basically branch the two together. It's one thing to know the behaviors we have, but it's very empowering to know why we do what we do. And I love it. Dr. Mike Davis, he taught me this skill. He was like, look, maybe some brain pathways are too traumatized. Maybe we just need to form new ones. So that's what I do. Education, and I married the two together.
And then we have none other than the great Sanford McMurray from here in the States, my home neck of the woods, but now he's currently living in the posh Australia. Okay, I put the words posh on there, but he lives in Australia down under. Sanford, welcome back to the show. You've been here twice. This is your second time this week.
I am a privileged man. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. It's great to see you, ladies, and thanks for having us. Sanford McMurray, originally from St. Louis, Missouri, lived in Alton, Illinois, for all those Illinoisers out there. Currently in Australia, once married, not now, but 2 kids, and they are growing, doing their thing. Look, for me, I run a business called Intrepid, 21st Gym, and it's all about a system that I created called mental wealth. Now, people may have heard of mental wealth, but for me, it's a combination of your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. And culminating in those things, we get to unlock little areas of people's lives that they're struggling most with. And it's for me, it's about questions. I ask a lot of questions, and sometimes the questions people kind of be like, I don't know, but sometimes there's questions they've never asked themselves before. So it's all about questioning and really going at it from a compassionate perspective. Okay, so there's no judgment. There's no, this is what I think you should do, or this is how I'm comparing you. It's all about that compassion and care.
I love it. I love it. Now, Kristy, you can relate to, I know that Sanford mentioned that he's married, was formerly married with 2 kids, and you are a mother and was formerly married also with 2 amazing men children.
The sonship. That's what
Sonships.
Yes, I was married for 4 years. I am divorced, and that's kind of, I hate to say my bread and butter, but a lot of my clients are divorced people, especially divorced women. How do we get back out there after the trauma of divorce? It's a very powerful thing divorce can offer if we change our interpretation of the struggle, and that's the beauty of talking to someone. You see, I'm trying to get everybody to go to therapy.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with therapy. I mean, it has been a saving grace for me over the years, on and off. And so, I used to have this stigma about therapy and then, and plus, I grew up in the church. And so you was like, y'all, you need a Jesus to follow
Oh
him.
yeah.
Okay. But I really had to go talk to somebody in addition to Jesus. Okay.
Yes.
That I could
And
see.
therapist.
Yeah, and the therapist. And so there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm glad I did. And I would do it again, wherever I need to, whenever I need to. I think it's important to have a good lawyer, a good CPA, a good therapist. You got to have a good coach. There's certain people you need in your life. And so I want to get into the nitty gritty of it all. So thank you guys for coming back on the show. Let me tell you guys, they're open for questions. We want to hear your comments. We want to make this highly engaging episode because this is real life. There's no way to get around it. If you're in a relationship, trauma is somewhere in the middle, either the front, the middle, the back, all the way around, something of that nature. And so we've got the experts who've not only who've lived this, but they've also been educated in this area by professional experience as well as personal experience. So I think it's great that you guys bring both a wisdom by knowledge and the textbook, but you guys have lived this thing. And so you're going to speak from the heart and very candidly, and you're going to be able to give some people answers. So I'm going to dive into my questions because inquiring minds and purposes like me want to know. Okay. So let me ask you both. All right. When you first, let me ask you this, because have you competed in your marriage, or did that person that you're married to compete, or what was that experience like? I'm sure you probably know other couples that have experienced it, but have you had that experience yourself? And if you so that was the case, then what was that like for you, and what did you do how did you come into the awareness that that's what that was? Let's start there, and then I got something else for you. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness. I guess I'll jump out and go first.
You are the lady. Go right ahead.
And so I've never been one to compete. My issue was I read an article before, and it said it was about why goal-oriented women attract toxic relationships. And it's because goal-oriented women love projects.
Ooh.
We love to accomplish things. We love to achieve things. We are the type of people that will always get caught up and we'll always get caught up in the potential of a thing. So I've never been one to compete, but I have been in relationships where the man competed with me, and I always found myself trying to say, I'm here to help you, but it came off controlling to him. Now, through my therapist, I said it earlier before we went on, never trust a therapist who don't have a therapist. So, of course, I'm just being very open and vulnerable here. I do and did have some control issues, and I'm trying. And so, but learning to channel those things.
Mm-hmm.
But it did come off controlling. But of course, it would come off controlling if there is an ounce, a bit of competition within the man. And something you and I talked about, Minister CaSaundra, CaSaundra, was that being an alpha female, it often creates room for the partner to become competitive and jealous. And I always say one of the reasons why people are competitive or jealous is because there is a fear of being left behind. So somewhere the partner doesn't feel like there is a teammate. Because if a woman has a vision and the man does it, she'll go and get it herself. And that's where the competition really peaks.
Ooh, Jiminy Crickets. Ooh, that's some delicious stuff. So let me ask you, Sanford, have you had that experience before, or do you know of other couples that have or maybe even the clients that you work with? I know you work with youth, and maybe some of the parents may have that, and it shows up. The child is in the middle of it. Like, what would you say to that? What's your experience?
Let me just go because I'm all about words. Words are so crucial, and we change words every generation, every decade. That simply means the exact same thing that it meant when it first started. First of all, just let me say that every relationship, we get a bit confused by relationships. We don't have to have relationships like everybody else. We try to. We create our own rules in our own relationship. We create our own rules, but we try to be like everybody else, like the Huxtables, on the Bill Cosby Show, like James and Good Times. We want that sort of, we have these role models that sit in the back of our heads. That's what I want. That's what I want. Well, what's in front of you? What's the journey that's in front of you? Okay. So just let me just read this on what competition really means. Okay. Just so we're clear.
Come on, doctor.
The act or process of trying to get or win something, such as a prize or a higher level of success that someone else is also trying to get or win. The act or process of competing, actions that are done by people, companies, etc. Okay. So are we striving to win? Are we striving to get? Okay. And we're all striving to win, and we're all striving to get. We just have to call it what it is. And that's not going to be any different, because we were speaking earlier about, people coming in and there's things that they want, but they're not quite sure how to get them. And the first thing they do is what they've been practicing. Because Kristy was talking about people coming to her office. She wants people to practice in her office so they can do it out there in public. And so if we've been practicing competing in our work, in our sport, and whatever, what makes us think it's going to be different than our relationship? What makes us think it's going to be different? What we practice is what we do. Okay, so I'm going to be that sort of that I guess guy that says everyone competes. Most of us just don't know it.
Okay, so then let me ask you questions. Then let me ask you why, because I need. You see all that coming up in there. So let me. So let me ask you that. So let me ask you this question, Tim. Why do you say that? Why do you say that all couples do it? And I said to you, or I made the announcement that I haven't done it, and apparently, if I listen to you, that maybe I have done it. I didn't know. So how do you know if you're competing? I know when I'm running track, I know I'm competing. When I'm playing basketball, I'm competing. I know what that looks like, but I don't necessarily know what that looked like in my past relationships. If you say that all people compete, because like I said, my heart when I went in is not to compete with the person that I want to be in a relationship with or that I love. To me, in my mindset, I think that's cuckoo for cocoa pop. That's just me. But maybe I didn't pick up the subtleties because they weren't as blatantly obvious, whether I was doing the competing unconsciously, or he was doing the competing unconsciously, or maybe he was so smooth with it that CaSaundra didn't even catch it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, like, how do you know those signs if it's that subtle? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, you guys are experts. Do tell. Inquiring purposes, and minds like me want to know.
Do you want to go on that, Kristy? You want me to dive into that a little bit more?
I want you guys both to dive into it. Go ahead.
Actually, I've literally just one point, and I was writing it down, so I made sure I didn't forget it. But my point of view is, as far as competing within the relationship, first things first. I love what you said, Sanford, because every couple competes. And then to add to that, I want to say we do compete, but are you staying in your lane? That's first thing. Second thing also is, I wrote this down, within the relationship, is the partner competing with old partners that's still in your heart? See, that's a whole nother thing that we would have to unravel. Are you comparing the partner to another person in your past? Did you have a power couple? Did you want to be this power couple? Oh, look at them, and Why you not acting like him? Because so and so was behave that way. So, and this is what I always say: trauma, it behaves as the third wheel in the relationship. If it's not healed, and trauma is a bully. It'll tell you how to love. It'll tell you what careers to choose. It'll tell you how to parent. Trauma will be the third wheel in the relationship. Thus, that opens the door for the unhealthy behaviors. So, it's the person you're in the relationship with. You're trying to do this and do that. Should that person even be in the lane with you, running with you? Are you making them compete with somebody else from your past?
Okay.
Have we truly healed?
Well, now that you put it that way, then
Oh,
yeah, I guess a little competing situation right there. So
did I just hear the harps go? Oh.
You guys remember the Muppets when Kermit would get that face when Miss Piggy would do something to it? He did that. That's what was going on internally. I had the Muppet face on the inside.
Yeah.
So then I stand corrected and guilty as charged. I have done that.
Yep. It's hard not to do. It's hard not to do, because if you come from that, what makes you think you're going to be different? And again, I need our audience to understand, we're not blaming. It's not your fault. Okay. We have to get over this. I'm offended. I'm not that way. How could you say that about me? Well, really, if I say it and it triggers something, that means it was already there. It was already inside of you. What happens? I love that lovely analogy that Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say, when he was with us. He said, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Apple juice, pineapple juice, tomato juice? No, orange juice. I know it sounds so simple, but, and then we take that and we switch that around. If someone squeezes you, says something that hurts you, says something that the anger was already there. It was already inside of you. Okay. Now we have to do the reverse engineering. Okay. Where did that come from? Okay. And it's not the person that you're with now. It's not your last boyfriend or girlfriend. It's not the people at work. We got to go back. This is why therapy is so crucial. This is why coaching is so crucial. This is why I love working with our youth in the mentoring space, because I think all kids need a mentor. They need someone, because where do we get the way that we are? It came from someplace. Our first teachers are our parents. And in a sense, they're our mentors. We look at, that's how mom and dad handles each other. That's how and if your mom and dad aren't doing that thing, you're looking at your aunt and your uncle. You're looking at your neighbors. We as kids, we feel the relationship first. We feel the relationship first, and we start to connect that into our DNA. Okay. And through that DNA, it sits in there, and then it goes into what we know as the unconscious or the subconscious. That's where we react and deal with most of our life, from the subconscious, which is totally hidden. It's all underwater. Okay. And that point you made about, trauma being a bully. And then we start teaching that to the people around us and doing that in our relationships. I'm a huge believer in that we teach our kids. I think we teach our kids our fears as adults, as parents. We teach them our fears. Well, I didn't have any money, so I want you to make sure your finances are in order. Well, my relationship sucks, so I want you to make sure you got a good man or a good woman.
Yes.
Well, when I was younger, I was out of shape. I want you to make sure you're in the best shape, and I want you to compete, and be the best, the absolute best, because I wasn't. You see, I got a young lady who's currently considering me to work with her son, and she was divorced, and she said to me, well, I was the mother. I said, that's great. And then she said, I was the father. And I went, no, you weren't the father. You took on that role. You took on that role, and you were competing. You were competing to be the best mother, dad that you could possibly be.
Yeah.
Instead of staying in your lane as the mother, stay in your lane. We talked about that, and go, your father's not here, but I still want your father to be in your life some way, shape, or form. Or if we don't have that, I want your Uncle Bob, your Uncle Jack to be in your life. you know, you got to stay in your lane, as you said. But that's another form of competing, and divorced parents have no idea that they're doing that.
Mm.
And Cassandra, I just want to add something to that. It really hit my mind hearing you speak, Sanford. I guess it's the therapist in me talking now. I don't know, but it is. I wonder how deeper we can go if we change the language from competing to reliving. That was the question that popped up in my mind, because ultimately people compete because they are trying. I call, and I've mentioned this before, but I call it the curse of overcompensation. So like when you do a service or something, you want to be compensated, the thing is, growing up, if there is something that we did not receive,
Mm-hmm.
we attempt to relive it subconsciously to compensate ourselves. So ultimately, I'm competing, but really, I'm just reliving to win again. I'm reliving to defeat trauma. Just a bit of self-disclosure. So, like, part of my biological father left my life when I was 3 years old. You and I have talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember, and I did not know it was a subconscious process and a spiritual process as well, but I was choosing partners that had extreme red flags of abandoning me. But if I got you to stay, it validated my father ever leaving me. So I am competing, but really I'm wondering if it's has a more therapeutic blow or impact if we say, what are you reliving? You're making your partner, or if you're a couples unit, comparing yourself to other couples unit, other couples, as Sanford said earlier. Why are we comparing? We're comparing, and it's manifesting as us living again, and that's how we continue generational trauma. And I call it parenting out of rejection, like the example you gave, Sanford, and I just loved it. If I grew up in poverty, I'm going to make sure my child has everything. But then I have a new generation now that doesn't understand the terminology of no, which is really a poor mindset.
I'm
So,
sorry. Can we just interrupt you for a second? Because I need you to say that again, because I don't think people heard it.
Can you break it down yeah, please go
They are
right
saying
ahead.
what? They are saying what?
oh my goodness, it's parenting through rejection. And even when we talk about being in couples, we're dating through rejection. We're choosing through rejection. That because if I did not have it back then, I'm going to make sure that I have it now. So now, when we talk about competing, now we have introduced impulsivity into the relationship. And that opens a door for infidelity. That opens the door for, well, you're not doing what my partner, your partner's not doing what somebody else is doing, and they caught your eye. So now I step out of the relationship. It's impulsivity. So one of the therapeutic strategies that especially for my clients who are borderlines, impulsivity is a big thing. And so I say, well, how about we put a time limit on when you'll make the decision? Can we wait 24, 48 hours? During that 24, 48 hours, can we add a thought process to the emotion? And so that's just a thing but I'm wondering, because that was a question I heard in my mind. It was, should we change from competing to reliving? Because ultimately, the partner you choose could it be you trying to relive the trauma to win against the trauma?
Ooh, goodness gracious. If you guys are just now catching this show, we're in the heat of the night, in the heat of the moment of talking about why couples compete. And clearly, they are sharing, our experts, Kristy Snelson and Sanford McMurray, are sharing with us the things that are why that is. I mean, the enlightenment that's happening right here. I mean, wow, Kristy and Sanford, you guys are bringing the heat and the truth. So Okay, so here's the thing now. Y'all got me stirred up. So you mean to tell me still rejection is crying out? It's showing up in our relationships because somewhere we have not rejected the rejection. We are still married to rejection. We have not divorced. Maybe we're looking for the approval to get the divorce from rejection. Maybe we don't know how to divorce from rejection because we've grown up essentially in it such at an early age, and it's still fostering us through relationships. And now here we are good and grown. I mean, good and grown. And good and grown. And here we are, we're in relationships with spouses, with partners, with folks that are dating, for mating. I don't know. The point is that it's still showing up, right, in our relationships, and we're not even, those of us like myself who wasn't conscious of that I was competing until you showed me just in this moment, Dr. Kristy. She's not official yet, but that's what I'm calling her. Till he comes that. That I was competing with, comparing. That was the competition, comparing this person to this other last relationship. And then the person that's current, would be new, wouldn't have a chance because I'm still reliving the competition of the competing between the two. So it's really not fair to that person that's current, or that person that would be current in a relationship.
Let me ask you this, ladies, and just take a moment when I ask you the question. When I say the word marriage, how does that sit in your body? What does that look and feel like to you? And try not to do a comparison in your head. Just drop it inside and just tell me what that feels like to you.
Okay. Well, I haven't had the experience before, so of course I'm looking forward to it. I would think it'd be a good thing. That's all I have to say. Go ahead, Kristy.
Oh yeah. The first thing that dropped in me was a partnership. Partnership. Though I had to learn, I'm just being very candid. I had to learn the skill that I treated marriage too much like a business. And so, I'm writing a book. Well, it's in editing. And I love that question. Look, I feel like I'm in the therapy. This is the virtual therapy session.
It is. We're all getting virtualized therapy right here.
But one of the things I put in the book was I was born a woman, but I was raised like an emotionally detached man. And so I unlearning to learn again that marriage is a beautiful partnership, because that's competition. If I'm entering it like business, I'm like, okay, what did you bring to the table? What? So I had to unlearn to learn again. So I had to see how it, and I love that you said how it felt in my body. Where did it manifest? What were the thoughts attached to it? What were the feelings attached to it? 9 times out of 10, if I know it's trauma, how it sounds from trauma, because I have certain feelings and emotions and physical manifestations to that emotion and to that feeling and thought. And then when it's healthy, I know how that feels. So it's learning to gauge the two. But yeah, see, I went on a tangent. Go ahead, Sanford. I apologize.
No, you don't. This was good. Go ahead, Sanford.
And because we want to be all logical about competition. We want to be all logical about love. We want to be all logical about the people we invite in our life. We have such wonderful words nowadays. That person is a narcissist. Ooh, we just love the way it rolls out of our mouth. Ooh, narcissist. I'm going to say that a few more times. For our kids, ADHD. You've done the education thing. You can help me out with that, Kristy. But so many different words for this.
All these freaking labels.
Simply saying, I want to be connected to somebody, to something, to myself.
Yeah.
For connection. Just for connection. So many words for that one thing. And look, to get down to the nitty-gritty of it, one of our biggest fear, if you ask me, is is not being loved.
Yeah.
Just not being loved. That is so huge. And we call it rejection. We call it, I'm looking for myself, whatever, I'm trying to find who I am, just say it, I'm lonely, or I want to be with someone, and I'm looking to have just the dynamic conversations that need to be had, the ones that trigger me the most, the conversations that trigger me the most, because that's what I'm competing against, and those are the people I'm competing against. It's like I asked a question about marriage, and CaSaundra, you said, I've never experienced it before. You have.
No, I haven't.
Many times.
No,
Your
I
mom,
haven't.
Dad, your friends,
I haven't personally experienced, and if I were to go by my friends, very few friends of mine have been married, and the ones that have been, most of them are now divorced. And so I guess I see it from a different. I think I'm experiencing it from a personal, like it was me that got married. But go ahead. I want you to say your point, and then Dr. Mr. Michael Jordan has come up with something. So I want us to definitely take a look at his commenting question. So go ahead, Sanford.
That's what I mean. It's hard for us to go into any relationship not experiencing relationships. If a person said they've never been married, if they say they've never been married, of course you have. You've witnessed it. I don't know how many times I'm a collaborator because I love bouncing. And I think there's nothing we do in this life without somebody else. And so I don't know how many times I said, I'm looking for a partner that's more logical, that does numbers. And people are, Sanford, you don't need a partner in business. You just do it by yourself. Because what they're saying is the businesses that they've seen have gone terrible with the partners. And so they're taking that into their next relationship with people. We can't experience anything without the experiences that we've already had that sit in our DNA, thinking, oh, I don't want to be like them because they got divorced. I don't want to be like them because he cheated. I don't want to be like them because she was, nagging all the time. That's what we say. We say that.
That's what we say.
We do.
We're taking in the experiences.
Yeah, I know y'all say it too.
Our assumptions to every relationship. That's what we're doing.
Okay, Sanford, I gotta give it. You got like 10, 15 million points right there. Let me take a look at what Michael Jordan has to say. He says, what are couples to do when the trauma affects the relationship? Okay, I got the experts in the room, so they're gonna answer that question for you, Michael. So get ready for y'all. I'll repeat that again. What are couples to do when trauma affects the relationship? How to move forward in the right process if you are with the right person. Ooh, and I have to even say, if you are not with the right person, that's just something I think we need to dial into. So, which one of you guys want to address that first, and then, Kristy, you want to bring up the rear there, Missy?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Kristy go ahead and dive into that, but I just want to say, just these three words. I think 3 words. Don't be vague. Don't be vague. Okay, and I'll come back to that. But if you want,
I was about to ask you, what does that OT? Okay, let me just say what I'm going to say. First off, I'm looking at the question again, and I'm repeating it. What are couples to do when trauma affects the relationship? First off, we need to realize, and sometimes in couples counseling, I separate the couples, and then I do individual sessions, because we cannot even address this question without addressing how the trauma talks to each partner. That's so the strategy that I use is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I start at the bottom, and we work our way up. Where are you triggered? And that's, for those who are wondering, that's MASLOW, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so trauma, because I use that as a roadmap for clients to see, where am I triggered? So it's 3 times that I use, because we have to understand the voice of trauma before we can see how trauma is coming in on each person in the relationship. We can't even go any further until we understand that. So it's 3 terms that I use: interpretation, emotional safeness, and resiliency. Interpretation is, am I interpreting my partner through the lens of trauma? Am I interpreting their behaviors, their facial expressions, their statements? Am I interpreting it through the lens of trauma? That's where we go off into assumptions versus reality. Am I assuming? Is it really reality? Can I be accountable for when my trauma enters into the relationship? That's first and foremost. Then it's emotional safeness. After you're triggered, because we got to understand the voice of your trauma before we can even go anywhere else. Emotional safeness. There are two kinds of emotional safeness in a relationship. Either one person would want to talk. And that's one type of emotional safeness. Another type of emotional safeness is the other person needs to isolate and seclude and gather their thoughts. And sometimes it literally meant, and see, I'm like, no, we gonna talk. No, but see, but one of, and it literally manifests physically. Like sometimes one person will walk off and the other person will follow. So we have to allow each person to their emotional safeness. So if you want to talk and the person doesn't want to talk, one thing I'd say is you have to reassure the person. If you need to go away, reassure the person that you will be back. Okay. And if you want to talk, hey, I know you need to go away for your safe space. It's just really a lot. We need to explain and talk. And then while we are away from each other, we have to come back. But then that's where we learn the skill of self-soothing. Trauma comes in because a lot of adult people don't know how to self-soothe.
So give me an example of self-soothing. I just need a little example of what does that mean? Because
if you're alone, if you're by yourself alone and you're triggered, how will you deal with the emotions? What do you do to release the emotions? What do you do? How do you self-soothe? 9 times out of 10, if either party does not know how to self-soothe, it gives trauma the right to be there. Because trauma's going to say, if it's abandonment trauma, I need. It's no self-soothing. If it's isolation, get away, no self-soothing. So we have to, and then of course, the third step, like I said, resiliency. How can you bounce back? We got to have a quick bounce back. That's just my belief. But that's what I got.
Wow. OMG, my goodness. This is stellar. Okay.
You got to understand the voice of trauma. And 9 times out of 10, the voice of trauma and your inner voice is the sound of the person who caused the most trauma in your life. That's not even you talking to you.
Hold up, Kristy. Hold up. Say that again.
Yeah, because I read it somewhere and it was so true. The voice, the inner voice of the child is really the authority figure that developed the trauma. So who is that talking to you when you are triggered? If we learn how to deal with the trauma, we learn how to deal with traumas in the relationship. Who is that?
Okay, Sanford, what do you got to say to that?
Look, I got my pen. I'm waiting for him to talk.
I know, right? You got knowledge. Well, let me give it up to Jordan because before you answer that, he said hashtag true not being love is so real. And then whatever you saw that you said, this is what Michael Jordan said.
All right.
Thumbs up on that piece. Okay, so Sanford, what do you say to that? Like, what do you say to that?
Well,
all of that, or what's your?
I think Kristy is spot on, and I love that she's bringing the examples in, and what's happening to us. The divorce. Someone's beating us up, someone's bullying us, the loss of the job. Those are all traumatizing. Okay. The trauma is inside of us. It's what changes inside of us. That's where the trauma is. Okay. And so if someone says they love you, but they're beating you up, you got the scars here, but inside of you're going, okay, that's what love must be then. Okay. All right. And then you go to your next relationship. Oh, okay. I'm getting that. So yeah, I'm loved. Or a person is constantly working. They're constantly working. And you're going, oh, that's what this relationship must be. The person just constantly works, and I just stay here in the house, and I do my own thing, they do their own thing. That's what relationships are. So the trauma is changing inside. That's where the trauma is. Okay? And Kristy mentioned about self-soothing. Okay, how do we know how to do that? What does that look like for us? Most of us don't really want to sit in that, so we go to addictions. Okay, let's get to our addictions, because
Yes.
I could eat that whole box of chocolate, no problem. I feel good. Oh man, I'm fat today. Oh my God. Or hey, I deserve those 12 pair of shoes and that new dress. Yeah, I deserve that. That's my addiction. I shop.
That's right.
Or look, I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna go all night. I'm gonna party. I'm gonna sleep with as many women as I can. That's my addiction. Whatever your addiction is, and you'll notice I ain't even talking about alcohol or drugs, because people, when they talk about drugs, people just think that that's the only addiction you can have. And there's not. That's more than it. Excess exercise, sleeping all day, working. Talk about it. People pleasing. Oh, I'll do that for you. Oh, I'll do that for you. No problem. You ain't had no sleep, but you're doing everything for everybody else. Okay? So we have to understand what our addiction is, instead of sitting in that moment going, okay, this is painful. Where is it in my body? How does it really feel? What does it say? Like you say, Kristy, what is that child saying to me? Because that child is talking to you. You're no good. They're going to leave you. You suck at that. You always fail. That's what that child is saying. So that is so crucial to understand. If your self-soothing is turning into addiction, or it is currently an addiction, all right? And of course, I gave those examples so people don't just think drugs and alcohol. Okay, so much more than that. Okay, and it's so crucial. And when I mentioned about not being vague, you broke it down and gave those steps that you use with the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Okay, it's there on the chart. What do we need first? Food, shelter, clothing. It's there. Okay. Do I have that? Yes. I have the food. I have the clothing. I have the house. I'm good. The next tier. Okay. I'm not super familiar with it, Kristy, but the next tier. You know what the next tier is?
Safety. It's safety.
Okay. Do I have safety? No, I don't. Am I going to scream and yell and tell my man that you should do this, you should that? I'm going to tell my woman, you lost all the money and now we don't have a house. Okay. It's there. So that's allowing you not to be vague. You're being very specific. I do not feel safe. Why? Okay. And in my relationship with my partner, I'm screaming and yelling. I'm used to screaming and yelling. Now, when you're not vague, you're going to catch yourself in your screaming and yelling. Okay. You're going to actually catch yourself. And that little voice goes ding. Okay. My screaming and yelling is making me vague. They don't understand anything I'm saying.
It's good.
I don't even hear what I'm saying. I'm at 50% capacity. At 50% capacity. I have no idea. And I'm talking about stuff that happened in 1989.
Oh.
But again, we're going back to that trauma you talked about, that generational trauma. Generational trauma is not just our parents' trauma, but we go back in our own trauma. Back in our own traumas. It's very important to recognize that. But the other part about the vague as well is when you come in the house and you go, oh, baby, what's going on? Nothing. You can see there's something wrong. Nothing. I'm good. I'm all right.
Cold shoulder. Yeah.
Or we don't say. And this is what gets me. We don't say, and you get this, Kristy, when people come into therapy, they never actually say what's going on for them. They tell you everybody else's stuff, and they tell you kind of what they want you to say, what they think you want them to say. But they never say, I'm not having sex anymore with my partner, and it's frustrating me.
That's a necessity. See, that's what I'm...
Just say that.
This
worry if I
conversation.
think...
This is grown folks conversation. This is grown folks TV. So let's even talk about it.
But we tend to be too vague with what our needs, what we want, how we want it. It's all right to say that. It's all right to say it. It may feel uncomfortable in the beginning, but you have to not be vague. Don't say nothing. Don't say, I don't care. Don't say, you do your own thing. Actually say it, because once you start connecting, you're going to start feeling it. And you're going to start having real conversations about the real stuff you need to talk about. So that's what I mean by don't be vague.
Oh my gosh, you guys have hit it. Kristy, I'm gonna circle back with you in a moment, but I want to bring up the comment here from Lachey Hughes. Thank you for watching, Lachey. She says, moving forward in trauma, relationship is to forgive and extend some grace and mercy. God knows that that's needed. I guess my other question would be to you guys is, now I'll be honest right now, I'm a little heated, okay? Because I don't like the word trauma. Clearly, I'm still having my challenges with it because I don't like it. But I'm like, okay, how can people get rid of trauma? Do we have to feel like we always have to live in this trauma thing? Because I'm about solutions. And so I want the people to, you guys are experts, and I know the spiritual piece and I get that as well. Thank God for that. But I want to know, do people have, right on, that's what Jordan said, honey, right on, to you, Sanford. I want to know, can the trauma be released? Does it continue do we have to just put up with it? Do we have to cope with trauma? Can we get the heck of the trauma out from ourness? I don't want to be sleeping with trauma. I need help with that. Y'all go ahead. Yeah.
The great Paul Mooney just passed away. I don't know if many people know the comedian.
I know.
Paul Mooney, but he just passed away. I think it was last week. But he said he said some guy approached him in the hallway, and they were talking, and then he said to Paul, he goes, must everything be about race? Mm-hmm. And Paul Mooney went, yes, it must. And in Paul Mooney's way. But for Paul Mooney, that was his lane. He woke people up in that capacity. That's what he did. And for him, it was such a strong, it was a base that he knew, he learned, he educated himself in it, and he knew that it would trigger people. Mm-hmm. The same thing with trauma. Must everything be trauma? Yes, it must. It does not mean it's bad or good.
Well, most people think, though, when they think of the word trauma, though, Sanford, people think of trauma as a very negative thing. And there are people who want to know, I go to see the therapist, I make the changes, I get healed, I get delivered, I get set free, I take the medication, I do the exercises, I do all of this. Is trauma always going to be with me? Like, do you get to divorce the trauma? Does a person get to divorce trauma? So do tell, because inquiring minds like mine and purposes want to know. I just have a different thought on that, but tell me what you think.
Okay, let me see. I am going to say yes. There is a certain place where I call it, and it's kind of interesting because a lot of my clients are like, there right about now, kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. But I call it the maintenance phase. Life feels doable. See, this is the thing. Some of us have the wrong definition of healthiness. We think healthiness is not feeling. Our definition of healthiness is like a robot. And I tell my clients all the time, we are not robotic. We are not robots. We were not designed to be robotic. Our definition of being trauma-free is not feeling emotions, good and bad. Bad emotions, and being happy all the time. And we're going to listen. Good things happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just want to say that.
That's good. That's good stuff.
And there is a place where you can achieve and where you can have an emotionally healthy life. But to have an emotionally healthy life, you have to have emotions. But I just want to say that. But it's something, and I believe I said this on your show before, but I say it again. Trauma First off, trauma happens to you. It's not who you are.
Mm.
However, we can use trauma basically because when clients come in, they are initially employed by trauma.
Mm-hmm.
As we do the healing techniques and we, practice some things, you employ trauma and the emotions. So then we shift into, I say, trauma defines your purpose. And this is what I ask clients. I say, and I say this term on purpose. I say, what do you hate about yourself? What do you wish that you can change? What do you hate that you went through?
Mm-hmm.
I said, the things that you hate about yourself, the things that you hate about yourself and that you want to change, that is what we call your clientele and your customers. You have a first-hand view of what you can provide for people. And then I say, what do you hate that you went through? And they'll say, oh, I've been through this. I hate this. I hate that. And I said, great. Now you have your product. Let's go to work.
Yep.
And that is so we are. It's all about your interpretation of the suffering.
Mm.
So yeah, okay, so if we hate the term trauma, we hate the term trauma, but we can say really what trauma is really giving you an opportunity to look in the mirror of your future and you working in your purpose.
Mm.
You employ trauma.
You employ trauma. That's ooh, yeah, we gotta talk about that.
It's shifting the power. And
shifting the power.
Yeah, and I just want to I think someone earlier they commented about forgiveness and see one of the things
Lachey,
one of the things about because we're talking because see now we're shifting into shifting the power back to you. Shift. So when it comes to forgiveness, I love it because in the Hebraic, righteous and justice, they come from the same term. They're like synonymous, the same thing. So technically to be righteous means to gain justice. When someone offends you, I'm just going to say it. It is not easy, or I'm just going to step out here and say and be very all generalized. It is not possible to forgive and move forward if you have not gained justice. Because when someone offends you, our subconscious says they took something from you. They wasted something that you had. We equate that to our value. So what we do is to gain that power back so we won't compete and relive and so we can forgive. Where do you feel you received an injustice? How can we replace that justice?
Oh my God. Listen, y'all, if y'all just now tuning in, thank you so much for Arthur for reaching out and Lachey for your comments. Wow. Now, Arthur, now you know why you have to have these people on your show. We are talking about, couples that compete. And you talked about from competing to reliving. This is so freaking nitty gritty good that I almost feel I need to do a part 2 here. But because the question is, why do couples compete? And Sanford and Kristy are sharing the blueprint and the breakdown, unveiling, demystifying the mystery of trauma and competition in relationships. Sanford, what do you have to say to what she just shared, or do you have a different take and thought? So please share with the audience. And thank you guys for watching. Do me a super favor. Make sure you share this here episode with your peeps. Make sure you share this because each and every person will benefit from what our experts have shared today. Their relationship on the line, their life is on the line. And I know for sure something that Kristy and Sanford has said is going to be a difference and a game changer if they hear it and then implement it. And of course, they're going to share with you how to get in contact with them so that if you need the help, go ahead, reach out to the experts, get your help. Okay, Sanford, go ahead, do tell.
It's such a powerful show, and like you said, you can have a part 2, part 3.
I know, right?
This can be a book by itself. This can be a book by itself. And I just imagine Kristy and I going on tour. We should do that. Anyway, I thought I'd put that there.
Seriously, you guys need to do like a virtual conference. I mean, seriously, that's just hey, that's just hey.
Yeah. I just call it because it's powerful. To see a man and woman on stage. I think we're going to relate to so many people and to have different opinions, yet still having a king and queen conversation. That's missing. That's missing.
Love it.
And so I want to just give a little insight for myself, just again, that transparency and not being vague. For me, my follow on in my relationships was once I started getting into relationships, which I wasn't a popular kid at school, so I didn't have relationships at school. No, I did not. I wasn't
heard differently when you were in high school. Like you were pretty popular in high school. I don't know about all the other schools.
I was popular, but I was weird. People didn't want to be seen with the weird guy, because I was talking about feelings. I was talking about feelings, and goals and aspirations and dreams. That kid's weird. I just want to party. I just want to be cool. I didn't care about any of those things. I was that kid when bell bottoms were in, I was wearing straight legs, and when straight legs in, I was wearing bare bottoms. You know what I'm saying? So, so I didn't start getting into relationships until really, university. But once I recognized that, I didn't know how to be in relationships. So I was cheating. I was in 2 or 3 relationships at a time. When I was married, I cheated twice. Okay. And the fact of the matter is I did not know how to be in a healthy relationship with my partner, let alone with myself. Okay. And what we want to do a lot of times, because we talked about addiction earlier, we want to go, he's a cheater. He can't be trusted again. So what we're saying about people is they can't change, or they can't become aware, or they can't become healthy again. Okay. Or healthy at all. It just in plain bottom line. But I think words like trauma helps us to have a foundation. And if I can say that
commonality
that I cheated, that gives me a base, that gives me a foundation of what that looks like. It helps other people to recognize that I'm not perfect, even though I'm in this space talking about these things. Now I'm talking from experience, but it also helps me to go, okay, I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like. I don't want that in my life anymore. I don't want that anymore. And now I make choices not to do that. And if people are doing it, they can come to me and not feel judged. Okay. And they can just say it and not be vague. Not be vague.
Yeah, because Sanford is not about vague. He will question you to death and bring you back up to life. Because he gonna get to the root.
Yeah, because it's your story you're writing. It's your story you're writing.
Yeah.
And how many times do you want to stop and start your story? You're never going to finish the book. You're never going to finish the book. And it's very important. But just with that, as we want to, I know we're probably getting close to ending, but I also wanted to give some insights on 4 practices. These are not my practices. These are things that I've researched and saw.
Do share.
I saw this beautiful couple, and they were sharing some of these things, and I wanted to be able to share that so people can have 4 practices, because my business is called the Mental Wealth Practice. And like Kristy said, when they come into her office, she wants them to practice so they can then take it out in the world. You must practice, people.
Yeah.
You gotta practice. I don't care how sexy he looks or how good looking she is, and the marriage is happening and you're gonna go on the honeymoon and all that stuff. You still gotta look at each other and go, okay, do I like this person? Does this person like me? Okay. And that's what my younger sister said. And it blows my mind when she tells me some of these things. I said, are you sure you're my younger sister? Because she said, for me, this is the bottom line in a relationship. 2 questions. Do you like me and do I like you? The rest is just detail, but you got to practice those details.
Wow.
So there's 4 things that I want to say that's a good place, I believe, to start that practice in your relationship. And I won't go into them. When CaSaundra does part 2, or when Kristy and I get on and starts traveling the world, we'll do part 2. I'm just putting it out there. Anyway,
there you go.
So 1, in those relationships, be curious before you are critical. Be curious before you're critical.
All these, yeah.
Okay, you heard this before, Kristy?
Yeah, 4 horsemen. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so again, I won't go into a lot of detail, but ask questions. You know, like I said, in my practice, it's about asking questions. I ask questions. You know, and just let me also say, in my practice, I use a movement foundation of circus. I love circus. So you're learning how to juggle as you're healing. You're learning how to do handstands as you're healing. You know, so I infuse circus in what I do. In movement. Movement is part of what I do. So ask the questions. When you ask the questions, then you can go, well, I don't understand that. Or can you help me understand that more? Or that doesn't sound right to me, before you go into that critical part. Okay. And then the second one is, be careful, not crushing. Be careful, not crushing. Okay. So you can say, look, I know you cheated on me. I didn't like that. I didn't like the way it felt. And I know it was probably a struggle for you, else you wouldn't have done it. Okay. So you see, I'm careful, but I'm also saying I don't like it. And you probably didn't like it either. Okay. We instantly want to blame. You know, if someone says, you know, oh, I'm having a bad day, you know, oh, I'm having a bad day because it's raining. It ain't got nothing to do with the rain. It ain't got nothing to do with the rain. You know, so we just instantly want to blame. The third one is ask. We talked about this. Ask, don't assume.
Ooh.
I love it.
Ask, don't assume.
And don't we hate it when someone tells us how we feel? That's not how you feel. that's not how you feel. And then another one that I dislike is when they go, well, your dream is stupid. See, no. We're going to have a little problem here. But first, I need you to tell me why you think my dream is stupid, because I'm going to ask the question. Okay, so I'm going to be curious. All right. And again, folks, these are practices. I still have to practice. I'm not going to sit up here and go, hey, I got it all down to a science now.
We all practicing.
You know, some of my clients that I had a client the other day, last week, he just felt like arguing. I can tell when he got in the car, he just felt like arguing. You know, he just wanted to argue over anything. I said, Andrew, how are you? Well, I said, oh, okay. You know, he just wanted to argue. That's the mood he was in. So I still got to practice. I had to calm myself down and go, Sanford, that's not you. It's not you. That's where he is right now. So I had to be curious. So I don't have it down to, I'm still practicing. And the last one, folks, is connect before you correct.
Ooh.
Okay. Do you like me and do I like you? Let's go for a little walk. Let's take our shoes off, walk in the grass. Hey, let's skip out on work. You know, we own our own business. Let's skip out on work for the last half hour. The last hour, go to a movie. Then we finish the movie, come out and go, hey, you know, can we address that thing now? But you have that connection now. You know. So,
wow. This is, oh my gosh. Ooh, I knew it was gonna be fire. I knew it was gonna be fire and desire. Okay. Dr. Pamela says over here, Dr. Pamela K. Dillon says, liberation brings legal people with pure hearts. Oh my gosh. Oh, I wish she could just pop on the screen and break that down like a transformer. OMG, my goodness. Liberation because you know her like that, Kristy. Just speak for her. Liberation brings legal people with pure hearts. Break that down to the viewer, and then we're gonna.
Because when she that's my mother in the faith. She raises me. I didn't even know I was a therapist. She told me I had the gift of counsel. Can y'all believe that? I didn't know. But what she means by that, she actually typed that when we were I believe when Sanford was talking about sharing his experience. And that is liberating. Because see, a legal, or if we're in the church room, pharisaical person, a legalistic person would try to be perfect all the time. They're not relatable, but when you share your experience, it makes it and then they see that you overcame it. It causes people to feel liberated, and they say, I can do that. And that's the beauty about healing and why mental health is so important now, because now it's to the point I want to see what you struggle with and I want to see how you overcame. That's putting power into practice. And so
Ooh.
that's what I could go on and on, but
Oh
I'm
my
actually about to call
gosh.
him when we get off. Like,
I know, right? We might have to do a three-way. I'm telling you, you guys have been truly phenomenal. I knew the only person I probably would say was missing out of this group was probably Dr. Michael Davis, which I got to bring him in to part 2 because, yeah, let me coordinate some schedules and we're going to do a part 2 on this. I really want to dabble back into the relationship piece. This has been phenomenal information that you guys have shared. Thank you so much, Sanford, for sharing this. And Kristy, you always bring truth and fire and heat, and I love what Sanford is a straight shooter, no chaser. I mean, he's just going to tell you the black and white, but it's always going to come from a filter of love. And that's what I can appreciate in him because he wants to see us win. You want to see us win. Ooh, Jiminy Cricket, freedom causes people to trust you. OMG, my goodness. And out of that, y'all, we got to get freed up from the traumaness. Oh my God. Okay, so before I know you guys are asking, well, how do I get a hold of the peeps? I'm going to show you how you're going to get a hold of the experts here today. And I want you to personally contact them, reach out to them. So this is how you can get a hold of Miss Kristy Snelson. Here it is. You can reach Kristy with before and after counseling at Gmail. Before, after counseling, yes, I think it's so smoking hot, gmail.com. And then before I say that, for the next piece, Kristy, you got this podcast business. Tell us the name of the podcast again and all that jazz. And then
the name of the podcast is called Before After with the Talk Lady, Kristy Danielle, the Talk Lady. And so the motto is we address the trauma before the after ever existed. So right now you're in your after self. I'm trying to get you to your before self. Who were you before the trauma? So that's what we discuss.
Ooh, Jiminy Crickets. Okay. You can catch her on Instagram at _talk lady and make sure you reach out to her today. And then we have Sanford. Sanford, your podcast or your geniusness. I know he's an author. I know you've been doing your lives like crazy. You can reach him at Sanford McMurray on Instagram. Anything you want to share there, Sanford, how they can connect with you and y'all reach out to these people. Like, get healed. Like, get freed up. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, look, just reach out to, Instagram. I'm there often. I do on Mondays. I do posts for mental wealth for men. On Wednesday, I do mental wealth for women. And on Tuesday and Thursdays, it's about the teens. So I'm dropping just information, my research, my experience. But I just did a new post because I'm open for new clients to come on board to do the mental wealth journey with me. Just got the new T-shirt line right here.
Ooh. Me
Wealth
too. Wait a minute. Let me get this. I want people to see that. It says mental wealth is health.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And then the mental wealth, my mental wealth practice is about mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Yeah.
Excellent.
So we look at one area of each and start to unlock each of those areas.
So get the T-shirt, get the help, reach out to him on his Instagram, on her Instagram, and make sure you listen, you guys. If we have not learned anything in this past year and this existing year, is that we need to get help. We need to get freed up. We need to no longer put up with the stuff, the baggage, all that stuff, and really get down to the real person and the real life that we really do deserve and desire to have. And you can get that through people like these kind of experts and coaches and therapists that this is their passion, this is their assignment, this is their purpose, and they can get you there if you're willing to do the necessary, and which you are. So go ahead and reach out to them. All right, guys, as always, have significant success on purpose, your purpose, and we'll see you guys next week. Grace and peace.
Thanks.